Hey, y'all, hey! Welcome to the PowerWomen podcast. This is the show where powerful women share their journeys, discuss how to solve powerful issues, and empower men who help us rise. I'm your host, Power Mom, Claire Brown.
Today's PowerWomen podcast is proudly sponsored by Cupid's Lingerie, Arkansas's premier lingerie and gift store. Love is in the air, y'all. Cupid's has everything you need. Lingerie, and much more. They have 6 central Arkansas locations, and you can shop online. Visit shopcupids.com and make your next date night the best one yet. Cupid's. Enjoy. Hey, y'all. Hey, we are back, and I'm so excited to have Dean Beiner of the UALR Law School with us today. So thank you so much for being here.
Happy to be here.
And I want to talk about so many things with you today, but first, tell us a little bit about your journey and being the first female dean of the law school.
So I actually moved to Arkansas to take the job at UALR as a faculty member about 29 years ago now. And I moved from San Francisco. Something a lot of people say, oh, well, what a culture shock. I usually say, no, if you're driving your kids to soccer practice and to school and making lunches, it doesn't matter where you are. Right. You're kind of doing the same thing, whatever city you are in. The nice thing about Little Rock is, you can get back and forth in 10 minutes.
That's right.
Whereas in San Francisco, it was
Not
more
so
like
much.
40 minutes.
Yeah.
So it's really been nice to live here all these years. I took my job as just a regular faculty member and got to a point where I kind of felt like I had mastered that position and actually went into the dean at the time and said, I can do this, but I can also do something else. I'm not growing anymore in this position. And John DePippa, who was the dean at the time, said, I've been thinking about creating an associate dean position to sort of rally the faculty, get their scholarly output up and get them out there and talking in the community more. And I said, okay, I think I can do that. So I became that associate dean. And then under Michael Schwartz, who was a subsequent dean, I became the associate dean for academic affairs, another position that sort of allowed me to grow. Yeah. And eventually I was like, I think I could be dean. And so when that position became open, I applied for it and ended up being dean. So I sort of worked my way up through UA Little Rock, learned different associate dean positions before I became dean.
Which is really key so that you can step into any position if needed.
Yeah, well, the nice thing about it is the folks who work for me, I know their positions. Right. So I can help out, I can train people, I can, make sure that they have the guidance they need in their positions as well.
Exactly. Now, what did you teach prior to serving in all these different positions?
Well, I actually still teach.
Okay.
I've taught all the time I've been dean. I teach.
Okay.
So I actually teach constitutional law. Right now, I'm teaching employment discrimination law, which is my area of scholarly expertise.
Okay.
And I also have taught a seminar on sexual harassment law, gender in the law, and civil procedure as well. So a wide variety of classes.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. So, as a woman and in this space, you've seen so much for women in the law and how we weren't served. There was no space for us several years ago. And when I say several years ago, 50 years ago, there were no women practicing law or even attending law school.
Very few women. So there definitely were some groundbreaking women early on that went to law school, and they were, 1 or 2, 3 women in a class. If you look at, Ruth Bader Ginsburg or Sandra Day O'Connor, they were one of very, very few in their law school classes. And now, law school classes are over 50% women.
Right.
So women definitely in the last 20 to 30 years have come into their own as lawyers and attending law school. And we're seeing that play out here in Arkansas. We have, women Supreme Court justices here. Actually, one of my former research assistants is a Supreme Court justice. That's how you know you're old.
No,
when that happens.
No.
And we have alums who have been women who have been attorney generals, and of course, although not a lawyer, our first female governor.
Absolutely,
Arkansas, which is exciting as well.
It is, yeah. And we've also seen, and not to discount the fact that you're also a female, a woman, and dean of the law school as well. I mean, so much has changed and grown, and for that to happen.
Yeah, I think it's really become a really open field for women. There's so many opportunities in law, and you can structure your your work day the way you want,
Mm-hmm.
that it gives you that kind of flexibility that
Right.
a lot of people are looking for in work-life balance.
Right.
Right now, my administrative team is all women except for one. I have one associate dean is male, and my
Really?
entire admin team, everything from my associate dean for academic affairs to my budget director, they're all women.
Really?
So it's an all-female team. I think that's kind of unusual in legal
Yes.
academia.
Yeah.
And our faculty is about 50% women now. When
Wow.
I started as a faculty member, I was one of 3 women faculty members.
Really?
Yeah. So it was, at least in the substantive law areas, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I think back to that. I don't think I noticed. I don't think I noticed until
Right.
I've thought about it since then, and there were 3 of us who were regular tenured track faculty members who were women. And now we're probably over 50% women in the whole admin team.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's exciting.
It is exciting, you
Mhm.
know? I mean, you just think of so much, and in the beginning of stages of growth, it's just survival so
Mhm.
much and so many times. And I interviewed you when PowerWomen, the local group, started, and because my curiosity was just going crazy, basically.
Wow.
And I wanted to learn and hear so much. And you helped me with that, and I'm so grateful.
Oh, thank you.
Yes. But what have been the biggest lessons from pioneering, essentially, and you may not see it that way, that others do see you in that space, but truly carving a path? And what have been the largest lessons for you as a woman, in law, or anything else that others miss, that we need to learn from, that we don't need to forget?
I think 2 big things that I've learned in a leadership role is, first, always listen.
Mm.
And sometimes people will come to you with a problem, and if you just listen and let them talk through it, they're going to resolve it
On their own.
on their own.
Mhm.
And I really like empowering my folks
Mhm.
to be able to resolve their problems on their own. So
Yeah.
sometimes in fact, I will go into meetings with one of my associate deans and go, we're just going to listen and see if they can resolve it without our help, quite
Yeah.
frankly, or see what the real issue is. So
Yeah.
one of the key takeaways that from a leadership role that I've come to is you've just got to listen to people.
Mhm.
I also think you also got to think. So don't necessarily make a decision on the spot. I am a great one for mulling it over, mulling it over overnight, mulling it over a weekend, and reaching out to people in my team who are thoughtful and have good ideas as a general matter before I make decisions. It's a really bad idea to make a decision on the spot when
Yeah.
that decision's going to have significant ramifications.
Yeah.
So I guess overall, you got to be patient. Got to listen, and you've also got to give yourself time to think through your problems and rely on your team to give you some input before you make any major decisions.
Those are 2 things that come with a lot of time
Yes.
and practice.
Yeah, it's practice, and it's you have to be patient. You really have to use all those, I would call them mom skills. I have 3 children, so there's
Yes.
mom skills involved here.
Yes.
A lot of patience and realizing that you're working with people who have different points of view, and
Right.
you've got to give them time to express those points of view and also give you input before you make decisions. A lot of times, for example, my second in command is my associate dean, Lindsay Gustafson. She's so thoughtful. I rely on her for input on decisions all the time. She should be a dean. I said that out loud. Anyway, she's terrific. I have other people on my support team who are equally have great ideas.
Yeah.
And I seek them out for input. So even though you're the leader, that doesn't mean you should be making snap decisions on the spot.
Well, and that's not what I hear from you. What I hear is that people want to be seen and heard, and you give the space for that, which then when your voice speaks, it makes it heard louder.
Well, I never thought about it that way, but let's hope that's the result.
Right,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yes.
Because then your voice is respected, because theirs is too.
Right. Yeah, I think that's right. I definitely have a great deal of respect for both my administrative team and my faculty.
Absolutely.
They are thoughtful, caring people. And you've got to come at people with goodwill.
Yes.
The assumption is always people are doing their best for the institution and for the students. They may not see the whole picture, but at least they are people of goodwill who really want the place to succeed and want the students to succeed.
Yep. We're going to take a break real quick. And then when we come back, I want us to dive into how the recent laws for women's health have changed things here in Arkansas,
Oof.
and how you can explain that to a layperson without a law degree like myself.
Okay.
So we'll be back in just a minute.
Today's Power Women podcast is proudly sponsored by Cupid's Lingerie, Arkansas's premier lingerie and gift store.
Love is in the air, y'all. Cupid's has everything you need. Lingerie and much more. They have 6 central Arkansas locations, and you can shop online. Visit shopcupids.com and make your next date night the best one yet. Cupid's. Enjoy. Okay, so we're back. And, we have had a lot of changes for women's health within the legislature and the laws that have been passed. And we've had it nationally, and we've also had that here in Arkansas. And so explain that to us. I think, we get snippets of sound bites with commercials and this and that. And we don't know what we don't know. So many of us naively haven't taken the time to download bills and all these things and read them. And so what do they say? What's now in effect?
So you have to go back to the U.S. Supreme Court's decision in the Dobbs case.
Yeah.
Essentially, for about 50 years after Roe versus Wade, abortion has been legal in the United States in some way, shape, or form. It was constitutionally protected, especially in the first trimester, where studies show that it's actually safer to terminate a pregnancy than to bring a baby full term. So that was protected under the Constitution for a number of years. There were some changes at the Supreme Court level. There was the Casey case came down in the 1990s and sort of allowed the states to have more authority in deciding when abortions were or were not appropriate. So there was a fair amount of state authority, but there was still that basic constitutional right. The Dobbs case, which just came down this past summer, reversed that and basically said that there is no constitutionally protected right to an abortion, that instead it's up to the states to regulate that.
Right.
So what we have now is that Arkansas, of course, had the opportunity to regulate it. They had a law in place in case the Supreme Court did, in fact, reverse itself and leave it to the states to decide. And now, of course, we have a ban on abortions in Arkansas.
Right.
So that, has implications, obviously, for women who might want to, in fact, have an abortion. A lot of women would have to go out of state. There's still, because it is up to states, there are states that still permit it. So if you have the resources to travel out of state, there's still opportunities to receive an abortion in other parts of the country. And so it's just a matter of resources. And of course, it's a big moral issue. People feel very strongly on it.
Very strongly.
It has religious and moral implications. So, it's really something that has been something that's really been tough politically. For a variety of states to manage. But we still see that there are some states that do permit it. And in certain circumstances, even in states where there's bans, there's exceptions.
Okay, so, like we were saying, we've had so many things come across Arkansas. We've had our legislature address things with transgender children, address abortion, address so many things. And, you and I were discussing just between the two of us how so much of our world would look so different if we all went by the philosophy of get out of judgment and into curiosity. And then how would our laws and lawmakers be so different? And what would our world look like? And how reflective would it be if we all went by that mantra?
Well, that's a really great mantra. So, there's all kinds of people in this world, and specifically as a mother of 3 children who ended up doing very, very different things with their lives as grownups. I think it's important to let people figure out what's their passion and who they are. We've had experience with transgender students at the law school, and I'm looking at some of the transgender bathroom issues that have come up in the K through 12 school systems here in Arkansas, and it was certainly just a non-issue that the student chose to use whatever bathroom they felt comfortable using, and none of the other students cared. I didn't get one email, one phone call, one visit about any of it. So, letting people figure out who they are and have the space to do that. I certainly had that as a parenting philosophy, as long as they can earn money at the end of the day. In terms of,
as long as you can get off my payroll.
as long as there was a path to off the mom payroll, you could go ahead
right.
and be whatever you want.
Right.
And as a result, I have a daughter who's a nuclear physicist. I have a son who's a business consultant in finance, and I have a pipe organist.
That's wonderful.
A son who's a music performance major. So
it's amazing.
All very different roads they all decided to take.
Yeah.
But they pursue their passions.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's fascinating to me. I mean, what if we looked at some people and said, well, you make too many decisions. You make too many laws. You make too many decisions. And just as those who make the laws judge those that they're making them for. And so what if we said, well, you're too religious, you're too this. And so the judgment can go all the way around.
True.
You know? And so what if we chose to get into curiosity of saying, so tell me, why do you believe that? And what formed those opinions? And how did you get to that? And okay, well, I have those same feelings, just different beliefs, and, and related to one another.
Yeah, I think conversation is the key.
It is.
Getting to know people's perspectives and where they're coming from. It's sort of, it's part of the notion of freedom.
Yes.
Right? So the idea that, we have the freedom to explore different things, to figure out who we are, to figure out what careers or what interests or ideas are the things that really make us interested and engaged.
Right.
And so, I'm an educator. So I'm all about ideas.
Yes, you are.
So
you're all about questions.
I'm all about questions.
Yes.
I'm all about we're not going to solve problems thinking the same way we've always thought, that we haven't solved them, right? So we need to be looking at things with a fresh perspective. And sometimes that's, a perspective we haven't even considered before. Right. Or coming from a quarter of the population we haven't even thought about.
Right.
And so, challenging how we've been doing things in terms of, our problem solving, I think that's a real strength.
Critical thinking.
That critical, we are, law schools are in the business of teaching critical thinking. Right. So, that's something that we think is that's important.
Yeah, and then how can we do that with our children?
Yeah. I think it's something that we have to, welcome their curiosity and
hone it.
And hone it, yep, and be honest about what we see in the world, and value their questions.
Yes. So and teach them how to ask them.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
I know. I was raised by a litigating attorney.
Oh,
and so
that explains a lot.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yes. And so we were raised with a lot of questions in the home, and so I think I've done that fairly well because I have one of my children that is constantly calling me out and asking me questions all the time.
Oh yeah. My oldest child, my daughter, is 30 years old now, and usually if she calls me out on something, I'm like, oh, she's right again. Okay, I hadn't thought about it from that perspective.
I've done too good a job.
Too good a job here.
This is all coming back to me. Yes,
yeah,
I know.
So but it's also kind of it's nice.
It is.
Right?
It is.
It's nice that they have that kind of perspective. Yep, they did pick it up.
Yeah, it's great.
And I think schools can foster that as well. Having that curiosity, encouraging kids to be curious. I'll tell you a funny story about my pipe organist. When he was in second grade, there was a presidential election. It was the first time President Obama was running for office. And we got a new dishwasher. And he decided to make a polling booth out of his dishwasher, at the dishwasher box.
Okay, yes.
And we dragged that to his second grade class on election day. And God bless his teacher. She was like, this is great. We're all going to vote in Daniel's voting box. And they had a vote on the presidential election in his second grade class.
That's awesome.
I loved the creativity of that teacher and just bending to my slightly funky son who decided he was going to do a poll in his own class that day. Yeah, so, that's a public school teacher.
Right.
So, here in Little Rock, Arkansas, just sort of like, this is this is engaging kids. This is making them think about politics. Right. Let's roll with it.
Yes.
So, there's great teachers out there also in our public school systems who are willing to sort of encourage that type of creativity and that thinking process, the critical thinking process as well.
Yeah.
So
thank you so much for all you do.
Oh.
And thank you for, you probably don't see it, which is So humble of you. But thank you for also doing what you do for women just by holding the space that you hold.
Oh, well, well, that's very kind of you.
Yes,
and,
thank you.
you know, we try to be, all of us try to be good role models.
Yes,
so hopefully
yes.
I'm getting somewhat
No.
in the ballpark of being a halfway decent role model.
You hit it out many times. So
Oh,
thank
well.
you so much. I so appreciate you
Oh,
and
well,
your
you're
time
welcome.
here today.
Happy to do it.
Thank you so much for listening. If you like the show, please rate and review on iTunes. And check out our website, thepowerwomen.org.